Before the Rings of Power, there were the Silmarils. Before Sauron, there was his master Morgoth. Before Aragorn and Arwen, there was Beren and Luthien. Join us as we explore Tolkien and all the ages of Middle-earth with your hosts from theonering.com, Jonathan Watson and Michael Grumbine.
You know, after everything that went down with Musk and Trump this week, I think people thought you and I might have a falling out too.
That's right. That's right. So
it's a natural progression of thought.
So I start blaming you for various political realities that have occurred in my life.
That's right. Why are we only doing this podcast once every 2 weeks? We should be doing it once every 3 days. Jerk. That's
you know why Jonathan changed it to once every 2 weeks? Because he was on never mind.
Oh, dude, that's a step too far.
I didn't say anything.
I
didn't even finish my sentence.
No. I can use AI to finish that word if you want me to when I edit this together.
Yeah, that was it's just, it reminds me, I was telling my wife, it reminds me of a bunch of, we've raised a lot of children. It reminds me of like 5th and 6th graders yelling.
It totally does. Yeah, like the big ego. No, you're stupid. You're stupider. You're the stupidest ever. You love everything everybody hates. Everything is just so bad.
Yeah, name calling, making up names for you.
Oh yeah. Bringing back history that's long past and dredging it up, and just it's simple and it's small-minded and expected though with those two egotistical people. Anyway, here's the one thing we have to look forward to though that I'm sure you're going to be very happy about. Oh, but before I do that, everybody, hey, become a premium member or become a supporter, not really a premium member, but a supporter of the show. Go to theonering.com/member, become a member. It's $4 a month. First month is free. We get to do live chats with y'all once a month. It'll be July. The next one is July 7th, whatever that Tuesday is. Do you have that calendar up? I don't.
The next,
it's Monday the 7th.
I don't have that. I don't have the chat.
Monday the 7th. Come on. You're my backup here. If I don't have it right,
I didn't know you were going to go to the calendar.
So Monday the 7th, and then we also have our extended podcast. And so Michael and I are going to give you what our guilty pleasure author is. You know, that author that you just kind of blaze through a book, but you just kind of enjoy it. And then perhaps a couple other things that we enjoy that are outside of Tolkien or Chesterton or medieval history or coding or designing, which is, I'm just kind of giving you guys all the things that we do in our
or cigars. Everyone knows we like cigars.
That's true. Yeah. That adds certain, that's like the whipped cream the perfect whipped cream on top of a hot fudge sundae. It just makes everything better underneath it. All right. So become a member, theonering.com/member, or theonering.com/Patreon to go to Patreon. First month is free if you sign up at theonering.com/member though. But here's the thing we do have to look forward to after all the fireworks of this week. Michael, that would be Tales of the Shire.
Oh,
the new cozy Hobbit game is going to be released July 29th, and pre-orders are now available for the PS5 and the Switch. I don't know why you can't play it on anything else.
Such a shame that I don't have a PS5 or a Switch.
Yeah, not even a Switch 2, just a Switch. I mean, I don't know if maybe it'll play on a Switch 2 as well. But look, you can get the beautiful 20x16 fold-out map for the quaint village of Bywater. Or if you want the I Am 8-bit exclusive edition, you get a exclusive book cover O-sleeve. I don't know what an O-sleeve is.
No.
And a free download code for the official game soundtrack. Woo! Michael, this is going to make your whole summer better and cozier.
Nope. I ain't going to touch it. But having said that, there is, to be perfectly blunt, folks know, or maybe they don't, that they must by this point, because I've referenced it so much that I've played Lord of the Rings online, and my kids play Lord of the Rings online, and occasionally I join them with an old character. And so the idea of exploring Middle-earth in digital form is not a bad idea in my mind. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing here is they're just trying to project the vibe of Hobbit, of the Shire. And so they're trying to be cutesy and sim-like, the Sim City, Sim whatever, the Sims.
Yeah.
So that you can, without, I would Yes, there's probably not a lot of combat, fighting, darkness.
This is why I have to play the game to try and figure out what you can do to really screw with things in the Shire. At least their version.
How can you wreck
the Shire?
And
Right.
can you institute a tax rate that George R.R. Martin would approve of?
Perfect. Exactly right. Can I be the new sheriff and start arresting people? That's what I want to do. That would be because I need to make the town cozier.
Can I build a brick house that ruins everything?
Yeah, right.
Like in the Scouring of the Shire. So
that's exactly right. A large brick
alliances with Sharky. That's what I want.
So here's the thing. I have a Switch, but I mean, I guess I could hook it up and like stream it. We'll have to do a brief. Like, I'll have to find a copy of it. It would be easier if it were. Yeah. I'll probably have to do that. Xbox or Switch. I have one of those. We'll see if we can do a little episode where we play it together, or you can direct me what to do, and we'll try and see how it goes. I've never played a cozy game, so this would be totally new and different.
Yeah, neither have I, and so I will jump on a stream with you, and we will have our fun. I mean, aside from the enforced DEI Hobbiton look, I don't. The part of this that doesn't bother me as much is the fact that it isn't taking Tolkien's world lore and warping it that much, because frankly, Tolkien doesn't have a lot of lore about the Shire. All that we know about hobbits in the Shire is found basically in the introductions to The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, and then a little bit on the appendices, and that's it. And so there's not a lot for them to ruin there. And besides, I think a lot of the vibe that they create is going to be fine. But I won't be playing it. I can tell you who will want to if they ever come out for PC, which is my daughter. My 7-year-old would probably want to play it. So maybe I'll keep that in mind when I stream with you if you end up playing it. So this is less offensive to me than the Rings of Power or
the Hobbit game. Or the Gollum game.
The Gollum game. Yeah, the Gollum game is offensive on a whole bunch of levels, like basically every level.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like if you have a bad idea, but the game is really good, right? You're like, okay, like how do you judge that? Well, the game mechanics are great. It could be a whole lot of fun, but I just find that the subject matter is trash, but you can still enjoy it in a certain way. Whereas the Gollum game was, every single aspect of that game was just the worst. The gameplay was horrible. The premise was bad. The acting was bad. There was
no draw. Like with this, at least you could be like, oh, let's build the Shire and our houses. Like pretend to be hobbits. Essentially, that's what this is. Pretend to be a hobbit without a care in the world and just sort of do silly social things all the time. At least that's better than pretend to be a creature that eats babies and then let's go walk around Middle Earth and let's have fun exploring Middle Earth.
Man.
So there's that.
Well, don't worry. We'll have our fill of Gollum in the new Hunt for Gollum movie. So we get to see him eating babies then. We'll see.
I mean, anyway, that literally is the saga, the place in the story where he was, in fact,
eating babies. Yes, right. Mm-hmm. Oh, decisions. Sometimes they're just not made with any foresight. In any case, let's move on. Let's get into what Tolkien actually wrote. We are on to, what are we on? This is,
Chapter 11.
Let's see, Chapter 11. This is The Hobbit, number 26, our 26th episode on The Hobbit, and episode 139 of Exploring Tolkien, if you're interested in that. Before we actually jump into, before we step on the doorstep, as it were, we have this, guys.
Hobbit facts.
So we all know the story of how Tolkien started The Hobbit, right? He was correcting papers, and there was a blank sheet of paper, and among all the students' papers that he was reading through and correcting, and he called it just a wonderful serendipity in there. And he wrote, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." Okay, so that's how it started. But that was a long time before he actually wrote The Hobbit. Like I don't think it was like 7 or 8 years before he actually wrote The Hobbit, and it just sat there. But did you know that the second thing that he did, do you know what that is? The actual second thing of anything written down about The Hobbit before he wrote words or anything like that. Maybe he was telling the story already. There's no specific thing here, but the second thing that he did.
I do not.
Take a guess.
I don't think I know.
Okay.
So did he make a map of the Shire or something?
Yes, it was Thorin's map. This is from. That was a good guess. You seem to know Tolkien pretty well, Michael.
Well, actually, I just his love of maps comes through even in this chapter. Like so we'll talk about that. But so that was if you force me to make a guess about Tolkien and what he creates, it'll either be a language or a map would be the same. Yeah. And since the hobbits speak Westron, then it's going to be a map.
Yeah, so this is in letter 163 to W.H. Auden, June 7th, 1955. He wrote this. On a blank leaf I scrawled, in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. I did not and do not know why. I did nothing about it for a long time, and for some years I got no further than the production of Thor's map. So that was it. So he had, in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, and that did something, and then he had Thor's map.
What's funny is that in that sequencing is, for many years nothing happened except Thor's map. It's like, what? How do you get from in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit to Thor's dwarven king's map? Like, dude, what is that?
Like, it's sort of like, like with this kind of with a person's ability to build an entire cosmology and history of Earth and civilizations and languages and things like that. He already had things like for the Hobbit already going through in his head, and so he knew that this was going to be a part of it. He had an inspiration for it, and it just becomes such a central part of it. So anyway, I love that. I never knew that when I came across it this week, that, so this was actually the second thing that he did, and that guided, just like in a hole in the ground there lived the Hobbit that set it in motion, Thor's map actually gave it direction. So
what's funny is that second, maybe that's his why, but that second thing that he did is, in fact, it features in this chapter, in the first half of this chapter.
Yeah, well, let's get into the first half of this chapter. This is a short chapter, guys, so not a ton happens here, but it's important in this first half. We're reading up through the part, in case you're following along in your book. We're reading up through the line in about halfway through that says, there was excitement in the camp that night. So you want to give us a quick overview again, Michael, this week? About
sure.
What's going on?
So it starts after they have landed, or they've left actually Laketown. So they row for 2 days up the long lake and into the river running, and they're going upstream, so it's slow going. It's a swift stream, as Tolkien says. And at the end of the third day, miles up the bank, they disembarked. Doesn't tell us how we know they were supposed to disembark. There must be something there, but they disembark and meet their ponies that have been taken along the side of the lake, I guess, and along the trails, and their provisions that have all been provided by the men of Laketown. The guides, the men who are guides who brought the ponies to this spot, immediately leave. They're like, "Yep, and I'm out. Peace out."
They're like, too close to the mountain.
Yeah, basically, Tolkien says the songs, which we made a lot out of in the previous chapter, didn't have as much effect as the nearness to the dragon. So the dragon was a lot easier to believe, and the coming of Thorin a lot less easy to believe, or at least his triumph less easy to believe. So they're abandoned. They sleep and are glum that night, and then they begin their journey up the river further with the ponies this time. And it says there's no roads, there's no trails, so they have to make their way through wilderness slowly towards the lonely mountain. And they eventually get to the desolation of Smaug, the blasted area where there's not even any trees, just blackened stumps. And then they finally get to the southern spur of the mountain that sticks out directly to the south. They send some scouts up and around the spur. They're very careful not to go up Raven Hill, which was mentioned next to the mountain, next to that spur, because they feel too exposed. They eventually see the ruins of Dale, the town that was on that spur or in the valley after that spur, and then they work their way west. They set up a camp there, and then they work their way west to a second camp on the western spur. And eventually, because they think that's where the secret door is, eventually they do, in fact, explore enough to find that the trail that leads up to the secret door. It's a blank door at this point. It's just a wall, which is clearly crafted. It's clearly smooth and crafted. So they think the secret door is there. they're right eventually, but in this half of the chapter, it finishes with them having discovered that. And by them, I mean Philly, Killy, and Bilbo, who are the expeditionary force at this point. So, and that's the halfway point of the chapter.
This is interesting. So, if you're listening, we have one of Tolkien's. This is an early sketch. I don't know how early, but a sketch of the Lonely Mountain with Tolkien's notes. This is really just internally for him, even though he does add a little design to it. But you can see here, it's really hard to read because the quality is so low. But there's from the right to the left, there's the river running. There's Ravenhill, which you mentioned. It points to where the front gate is. You can kind of see this. It looks like the smoking of the water, right? Or the water.
Right. There's dotted lines, mist fumes, I think Tolkien calls it.
Yes. And then here's the first camp that you mentioned to the left of Ravenhill. They would not get on there. And then they come around the side to the, what does it say? Approach to the perilous path, it looks like. Right here.
Yep.
And then there's the back door, and there's the second camp.
And the perilous path is the dotted line running along that spur.
Right there. Yeah. So I think that's cool. Here, just so that we get our bearings here again. So this is from the side. Now, if we were to turn this,
so basically, we are looking directly east from this perspective.
Yes, from the back to the back door.
Yes, we're looking east. We are on the west side of the mountain, looking east at the mountain. Yes, and at the back door. Right.
Yes, and so then this is his earlier painting. Then he had another one, which is this one here, which is sort of for the front door. There's another one we're going to talk about a little bit later called the front gate. This is a Tolkien ink and paper here, but you can see here's the front gate right here, right in the middle. There's Smaug up here. This is Ravenhill, right there.
Right.
Dale is over here in the valley, as you mentioned, over on the right-hand side. And then if you're to go around Ravenhill into the back, kind of like back in here, that's where you'd get the back door. So the perilous path is up over in here, and you'd get the back door.
It might even be beyond that spur that we see sticking out. If the two drawings are connected, it would be beyond that spur, because there's nothing between the southern spur and that first spur.
Do you mean?
Or unless you're calling that a.
I think this right here is the area between the two spurs. So this is one. So this is one spur here, and then in the back you have this other spur, and that correlates. Sorry guys, I hope you're watching this. That correlates with. Well, let me think about this through. Now that I'm looking at it again. Okay, so this is Ravenhill. You're right. It would be past that spur. It would be actually, now that I'm looking at it, it would be behind this one right here. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you'd have to go around both spurs right there, which correlate with this one here and this one and this one right here. You'd have to get,
which presumably they do. So this is very like geography specific. Tolkien is really thinking about the specific layout of the land. Where everything is, how fast the rivers run, the ruins of Dale, geographic details that are highly specific. And there's not much that happens in this half of the chapter, except their travels and a lot of specifics about the geography. It gives hints towards the past. You reach the desolation of Smaug, and we're invited in our imagination to imagine Smaug destroying it. Black. Many years later. How many years was this ago? I just realized I never looked that up. How many years when Smaug took over? What's the date of Smaug's takeover of Erebor? But it's over 100 years.
2770.
Yeah,
and then they returned.
So it's 200 years.
200 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is ancient history.
Yeah. So Dale's been gone for 200 years. This is a deserted city 200 years later. It's overgrown.
Which is really interesting if you think about it, because Smaug presumably burns things with fire, but something's different here, because after 200 years, it's still desolate. There's still nothing growing, which is very interesting. So maybe a quality of dragon fire or the presence of the dragon. Evil has a real effect on the physical world in Tolkien's Middle-earth. And so we're given a little hint of that with the crows, like the dwarves don't like, they're near the front gate in this chapter, and they look and they see crows like winging around these evil, and they don't like the look of them. They say that let's get away from them, as if the few living things that there could be must be in some way participating in the evil. I think at least that's the impression I got. I don't know what you thought about that, but it's interesting. It's like what would make a crow evil?
Yeah, well, multiple times that seems to happen. I want to go back to your mention about like dragons and the desolation around them, the destruction that just their presence seems to have. It's not like at least there's no necessary indication that they're out there constantly burning things down and making it desolate. Maybe they are, but it's not like it's there. So this here, I came across this in the History of the Hobbit. It was page 658 in my copy. And the author writes this about these dragon-haunted regions, like the desolate plains or the desolate earth around the misty or the lonely mountain.
There's the withered heath as well in the north, if I remember correctly.
So let me read this. Stop stealing my thunder, Michael.
Oh,
jeez.
Sorry, didn't know it was stealing.
Finally, he writes, we have one dragon-haunted region which is never described directly, but which links the dragons of the Silmarillion with those of the Hobbit. For it seems likely that the withered heath, from whence Smaug came, was originally none other than the ruined land known by many names in the various Silmarillion texts, including the Blasted Plain, Dor Nafauglith, the Black Plain, and ultimately the Anfauglith, which is the gasping dust, right? Not only does the withered heath lie in a similar geographical position, now again, Tolkien was inspired by what he'd already thought of when it comes to the histories of the elves and the Noldor, and everything going on in there with Morgoth. He writes this: not only does the withered heath lie in a similar geographical position north of the Grey Mountains, just as the Land of Thirst had lain north of the highlands of Hithlum and Tower Nufuin, but Tolkien actually describes Dor Nafauglith as withered and the heath in the Lay of the Children of Húrin. Close comparison of the respective locations of Tower Nufuin and the Thirsty Plain on the early Silmarillion map with the Wildwood and Withered Heath on Fimble-Famby's map, which I believe is an early map that Tolkien had drawn of this here, reveals just how close the two were in initial conception. So so this idea that, one, they're connected to the Silmarillion, because that's what Tolkien had already done. He was writing what he knows. He was just kind of introducing aspects of that into The Hobbit. But two, dragons all the time with him always had this devastated effect. Where they came from was withered, was dead. There was nothing there. And so just their presence always brought that evil on the land as well.
Right. One wonders what they eat if they're destroying everything around them. There's no animals. That where does Smaug go to eat? Must fly a good distance.
I'm sure George R. R. Martin would want to also know that. I don't.
Hey, look, this is not a tax rate. This is a question about the life of dragons, which maybe I'm not supposed to be thinking
orcs,
too much. About
people. I mean, Morgoth could have fed them with whatever was growing under Thangorodrim. Right. But yeah, I'm sure,
Oh no, I have no problem with the dragons in Thangorodrim. I'm thinking about Smaug specifically.
Yeah. Well, clearly he can rest for years without being seen at all, because and survive for however long that takes. So maybe the hibernation. Yeah. But then if we take that into account, the hibernation doesn't affect the regrowth of the land around him. It's still dead and desolate. Just the presence alone.
Right. The evil presence is enough.
The evil presence is enough.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot that goes on into this chapter. However, I want to point out so instead of going through it step by step, because there isn't really a lot. Two things. Let's talk about again how I think Tolkien's prose has improved from the beginning of The Hobbit to now.
Okay. There's
a line in the beginning of the chapter. Let me read that, where he describes the river and the front gate that Fili and Kili and Bilbo see, and Balin, right? Yeah, Balin. Tolkien writes this: there the river, after winding a wide loop over the valley of Dale, turned from the mountain on its road to the lake, flowing swift and noisily. Its bank was bare and rocky, tall and steep over the stream, and gazing out from it over the narrow water, foaming and splashing among many boulders, they could see in the wide valley, shadowed by the mountain's arms, the gray ruins of ancient houses, towers, and walls. I love that, because it's in a way, it's a brief description. It's only is it one sentence? It's two sentences, but it gives you the entire view of the mountain. It's bare and rocky. It's tall and steep. It's gazing out. So not only is it there, but you feel like it's looking at you. It's not just an inanimate object. There's something in it that is gazing out at you. And not only is it gazing out at you, its arms are reaching out to you, because the mountain's arms shadow the ruins of the ancient town of Dale. And I just love that the way he's able to give us that feel of oppression from the mountain without saying the mountain was oppressive. It is an expertly crafted prose right there to describe the Misty Mountain.
Very true. And it evokes, right? It evokes the mountain's arms around. He doesn't say, that the mountain's arms, that they could see in the White Valley, shadowed by the mountain's arms, the gray ruins of ancient towers, houses, towers, and walls. So he's evoking memories of a thing we've never met before and he never describes before, with the ruined town of Dale. I mean, we heard that it was ruined, but that was it. And then, but also he gives us this impression evokes the idea of the mountain surrounding it with its arms, without saying that the mountain arms surrounded it oppressively or any.
Exactly.
He just describes it, and then it invites us to imagine and to evoke feelings. And I think you're right. I think it is a real show. It's showing the improvement of his craft as he's going along further in this. It feels more like a Lord of the Rings description.
It does. Exactly. When I come across those, I noticed those. That one stood out to me this time when I read it. The other thing that stood out to me about this is how quickly the dwarves descend into despair once all the praise is gone, once all the baubles aren't gifted to them, once the clothes aren't heaped on their back, once the praises stop being sung. Man, they are just like, it's okay. You've heard the phrase, you had a mountaintop experience.
Yes.
Yeah, right. This is what happened to them in Laketown, and then they go to the mountain and they descend into despair again. Right? They are praised, they are loved. He's coming back. The rivers are going to flow with gold. It's going to be shiny and rich. And then they get to the mountain and they say they were alone in their quest without hope of further help. They were at the end of their journey, but as far as ever it seemed from the end of their quest, none of them had much spirit left. They just got infused with a ton of spirit not 2 days ago in Laketown, and already like Thorin is despairing, and the only one again who doesn't despair and who does something is Bilbo.
Right.
He's right.
He's like the more even keel version of them. Like they're super high and he's unhappy leaving Laketown, and then now they're here and they're super low and he's not happy, but he has some hope. And he's looking at, and why does he have hope? Because he's looking at maps.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
He would often borrow Thorin's map, the one we've just been, we would have been looking at that one, and gaze at it, pondering over the runes and the message of the moon letters Elrond had read. It was he that made the dwarves begin the dangerous search on the western slopes for the secret door.
What? Sorry. What the bleep, Thorin? Like this
what's
is where
their plan? What are they going to do?
After reading through this in such detail about the dwarves again, like I look back at the movie and I'm like, Thorin is a sucky leader. He's really no good. But somehow in the movie, they try to make him into this great leader of dwarves who has a purpose and a mission. He goes there out of revenge without a plan. The only reason that he's able to succeed is because Gandalf was like, no, you're not going to succeed unless you actually have somebody with a more even temper who knows why he's fighting for this, not for revenge, but to get home. Right? That's who you need. Somebody who's able to see the situation and act on it appropriately. Whereas the dwarves, they just despair and then they revel in their heights and then they wallow in their lows. And it's no surprise that Bilbo then is the one who decides to like, okay, let's start looking again, guys. Let's find where we need to be. And then of course, he's the one that finds it. Yeah.
And it's really, it makes one wonder, like, what is Thorin's plan, if anything?
He doesn't have one.
And by the way, if Bilbo has to move them to the western side where it's more likely that the door is, what were they planning on doing? Just sitting in that first camp forever until Smaug came out and ate them? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand what's going on sometimes with the dwarves. And I feel like, in a way, I know this is going to sound a little Tolkien blasphemous to Tolkien's legacy, but in a way, I feel it's a weakness of the way that he imagines the story, because he just discovers it. And so the dwarves have this character, and we've talked a lot about this, or at least I have. It's a fairly petty character in The Hobbit. The dwarf in Lord of the Rings is knightly. He's actually courageous and this stalwart, loyal warrior, Gimli. But his dad is not so much, and his dad's companions here in The Hobbit. The dwarves are petty and venal, and they don't plan at all. They're mean spirited. A lot of times it's just they're kind of a caricature, like a fairy story caricature of dwarves, and it's really Bilbo that's the main character, and they're just sort of side. And so Tolkien doesn't feel to me that Tolkien really filled out what would be more realistic about a dwarf expedition like this. Like if you imagine an expedition of Gimlis, like 13 Gimlis in this trip, it feels like it would be a different kind of thing than what we get in The Hobbit, where they feel more like, I know this is blasphemous, they feel more like relatives of the seven dwarves from Snow White than they do like Tolkien's dwarves in Lord of the Rings.
And I'm not confident 100% in this statement, but I'm pretty sure he had already created dwarves for the Silmarillion at this point, for the histories of Middle Earth.
Right, but the dwarves of the Silmarillion are epic. They're petty too. I mean, especially the petty dwarves, literally named petty dwarves. But they have this dragon mask armor, and they come and save the elves. They save the greatest warrior elves in the world, the Noldor, from dragons, and in the up in the Battle of Sudden Flame. This is the Dagger Bragollach, right?
Yes,
I think.
So.
Anyway, they're far more. I mean, they are greedy, and we have the whole situation with the Nauglamir, but they're not. But they're also loyal and fierce as warriors, and these dwarves do not appear to be that. They really do appear to me to be 13 of the same race as the seven dwarves from Snow White, with slightly less silly names.
Yeah, it's the further confirmation that this story wasn't originally set in Middle Earth, and that the characters were more fairy tale characters inspired by the other things that he had studied and knew about.
That's right,
and not the characters from Middle Earth.
Like dwarves from Celtic or Nordic fairy tales, they is what they remind me of.
And in the same way, elves were the same thing in this one. They weren't really the elves from the Silmarillion,
that's right.
They were.
That's right. We talked about that. I got a couple details I wanted to talk with you about.
Okay, go for it.
The smokes and fumes from the front gate. It's interesting because Balin, when they scout the front gate, and Bilbo says, "The dragon is still alive and in the halls under the mountain then, or so I imagine from the smoke," said the Hobbit. And Balin says, "That does not prove it, though I don't doubt you are right. But he might be gone away in some time, or he might be lying out on the mountainside keeping watch, and still I expect smokes and steams would come out of the gates. All of the halls must be filled with his foul reek." What's reeking? What inside of is this just another one of these effects of this is what dragons produce, like desolations, where they have foul reeks, which means a smell, but the medieval idea of a smell, which is accompanied with winds and fumes and vapors, and is that what's going on here, or is there actually something steaming and it says dark smoke is one of the ways it describes it coming out of the front gates. So I can't imagine there's something burning all the time in there, is there? Maybe
it would have burned out over 200 years ago.
One would think.
I think so. There are two options, like you said. One is that there is something in the foul reek that is always slowly coming out of the front gate. It's slowly, the smoke is making its way to the top, whatever that foul reek is.
Like
now,
some sort of
would this be the same
steam or something?
Yeah, right. Like just his presence alone creates this foul reek around him, I guess, because it's affecting the land also all around the Lonely Mountain. That's one option. The only other option would be something inner earthly, right? Lava, Lonely Mountain would be creating something like that. That would be the only other
right. The Hobbit movies had it be lava, but
yeah. So it's did they have lava or was it just melted gold? Now I can't remember.
I thought there was. Was there not lava? Maybe it was melted gold. Maybe you're right. Again, I'm suffering from having watched it once, and by suffering I mean I'm not
Truly.
suffering at all. I'm actually quite happy.
You suffered the one time, and now you're past that.
I did my.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a way of explaining, like, there's a foul reek, and it is not just something you smell. It's not just something that is sensed. You can see it. It's so bad that you can see it, and I think it's a way of saying,
right,
Smaug is not just a dragon, but he's a destructive force both on the land and in the air.
Yeah. So the fact that his home reeks and smokes is almost like, it does have the same feel to me as the desolation. It's like, what explains the fact that everything's desolate and it's been desolate for 200 years and it's still nothing grows there. There's something more than just a purely natural explanation here. Smaug is a being that is an abomination. Dragons are abominations. And so he brings about corruption of the land wherever he goes.
So do you think then that, well, the dwarves want to retake, Erebor?
Sure.
Is it to retake Erebor? Is it to get the gold back? Is it to restore the land? Is it all of it, I guess?
I don't know, but I mean, I can't see the dwarves caring about the restoration of the land itself except as an afterthought. I think for them, it's the mountain home that's theirs. Like he's taken what is theirs. So there's the gold aspect, but he's also taken their home. So it's their hearth and home from the song, right? So that means something to dwarves as it does to all living intelligent beings. And so I think it's the combination of their home and their gold that they care about. I mean, obviously, I don't think that. I just don't think they would care like elves would care about the natural world as much. The land around. I mean, obviously they would care. They don't want it to be desolate. And
I also think it's like for Thorin in a way, right, it would be a quest to regain his royalty.
That's right.
Because when you think about the way he acted in Laketown, right? When he was lavish with praise, he became more of a leader almost, right?
Yep.
He was making things happen when he was there with the people, but when he's alone in a situation with just the dwarves and Bilbo, he's kind of not sure what to do because he doesn't have all the I don't know if it's the adoration around him or the will of the people looking up to him. He's sort of lost without that as an aspect. Maybe I'm just reading into it too much, but I feel like for him, it's probably a personal thing to say, I need to take the mountain back to find who I am because this is who I'm supposed to be.
I agree. For Thorin, there's definitely that. I mean, he bellows it out when he reaches Laketown. So multiple times.
That's right.
So yeah, I agree with you. That's his motivation as well. The other question I had was about, it's not really a question, it's just kind of interesting to me, was after they edge their way down this incredibly narrow pass across the mountain where they can't even bring packs because they would basically be in danger of falling 150 feet down to their deaths. They make it to this little, like mountain cove almost. I know coves have to do with water, but this hidden little overhang area with some grass actually, and the wall, the smooth wall that they're sure has the door in it. It says, no sign was there of post or lintel or threshold, nor any sign of bar or bolt or keyhole. Yet they did not doubt they had found the door at last. They beat on it. They thrust and pushed at it. They implored it to move. They spoke fragments of broken spells of opening, and nothing stirred. What's funny to me is, so who's the they? It's Bilbo and Philly and Killy. So you have Philly and Killy speaking broken fragments of broken spells. That's funny because they're the only ones. Because Bilbo doesn't know any broken spells. I get
that's true.
So it's got to be Philly and Kelly. So apparently it's part of dwarf upbringing to learn spells, and they were bad at it. They were poor students, and so the one would imagine dwarven spells have to do with things like opening doors.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see it with Narvi's door and Celebrimbor's inscription.
Speak, friend, and enter.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't catch that, but you're right. It
So
would only be
the
them.
imploring part. I imagine my headcanon is that's their imploring. Is they're using words. They're using phrases like ultimately opened the door. Gandalf used to open the door to Moria.
Yeah. There are probably stories that they would have had that would pass down about the doors that opened Erebor or the doors that did open Moria and things like that. And
anyway, it's so cool because it's the kind of thing that makes you just think and build all kinds of imaginative background. And Tolkien does it in like a sentence. It's just
it goes back to that phrase about the mountain, right? He's able to do that in the shorter words. This is where so many people think that writing well means writing descriptively in long phrases that let you ruminate on them on what they really mean, when the actual magic is writing as succinctly as possible with words that have the most pregnant meanings that allow you to create the reality inside your own head, to experience it and not just be told what it is. So, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, so next week we'll get into the opening of the door, but I wanted to take a look at this painting by Tolkien of the front gate. I guess it's really not a painting so much as it is an ink an ink painting. He inked this here in any case. So this is the original one. This is the front gate. You can see the foul reek steaming out of the front gate right here.
Yes.
And then you have all these layers and all these lines and this sort of, I don't know, tree here, little bit anthropomorphic tree that's dead. All the rubble of the rock strewn here. And so this was his painting. And then in 1976 for the Tolkien calendar, I can't remember his name, they took it and they made it into watercolor, like this. And I got to say, I kind of don't like it.
You don't? You don't like it?
It's a little Art Nouveau-ish to me, and I've never really liked Art Nouveau.
That's why, because I like Art Nouveau.
Oh, okay.
And you don't.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It makes it difficult to figure out what's going on around the mountain here. Like the different types, like right over here, the different types of layers that they have with the stone. It doesn't feel right to me. Like this is not the way I'd imagine a mountain to look. Now I like how the river comes out, and like his style is incredible. And again, now this is a colorist's rendition of Tolkien's painting here, right? So it's not necessarily how Tolkien would have done it, but this is how this artist did it. And even added more clouds in the sky based on what he thought would be there. But yeah, it's very cool. Not my favorite though. Maybe it's, but I dislike this version more than I dislike this version right here, the black and white version. So I don't know. Anyway,
that's cool.
See,
I like it. I like it. I like the addition of color. I'm a sucker for watercolors anyway, but it does make it. I agree with you. It does make it a little more, I want to say cartoonish, but something like that, where it's a little more childish.
It's more, it's so stylistic there. The sense of reality is gone from this, from like, the drawings he had of the Elven King's Hall, which I think were far more realistic. I just don't get all these layers of stone and what they mean exactly here, along the top.
Well, it's clear they didn't have an idea of what they mean. They were just like looking at it from a perspective, at least that's what I think, a perspective of there are lines here, and so we have to have different strata colors and such for each set of lines. Yeah. And so
unless you'd say like this is what maybe the dwarves hewed this out of the mountains.
Well, absolutely it is. That's what the dwarves carved. Because the dwarves made the front gate.
Right. But just the layers are so intense that it's hard for me to figure out what's going on exactly. Maybe that's the more fairy tale nature of this part, and maybe that's what all this rubble is, right? This is all the rubble strewn from their original carvings of that.
I suppose, yeah, could be.
Anyway, all right. I just wanted to bring that up because this is a painting.
I'm glad you brought it up, and I like it. We disagree on that.
Look, I don't dislike it. It's just not my favorite. Well, maybe I dislike it a little bit. But again, this is not Tolkien. This one isn't. This colored one isn't. This one is. The black.
I mean, it's kind of Tolkien. It's partially Tolkien. It's just Tolkien with colors.
Okay. You're right. It's like colorizing It's a Wonderful Life.
Because I don't think
it's not the same thing.
There's no change to the art except the addition. I mean, the clouds, I agree. But besides that, all the lines are the same, right?
There's no change to the art except all the colors.
Fair. Anyway.
All right, we'll move on from that.
It's not like the artist added anything, like any objects or anything like that.
No, that's true. That's true. There's no gender neutral mountains in this.
Right. There's no gentle. That's funny.
He didn't add arms to it.
All right.
Okay. All right.
The
so
shortest
there we go.
half chapter ever, and we still managed to talk.
45 minutes on it, man. We're amazing. Okay. Hey guys, we're going to get into our extended podcast. We're going to talk about our guilty pleasures of reading and other things that we have on our mind. So join us there. Go to theonering.com/member, become a member there. It's $4 a month. First month is free. And we're talking on July 7th. So become a member before then so you can join us. And we'll send out an email with the Zoom link so you can just pop on your phone, on your iPad, your Android, your Mac, your Windows, anything. Because Zoom works on pretty much everything on every browser. So hope to see you guys there. And we'll see you all on the other side. Right, Michael?
Bye, freeloaders.